The founding fathers of your Christian faith were so wealthy their neighbors tried to run them out of town. I'm not exaggerating. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the three men the Bible holds up as pillars of faith, the patriarchs, the ones we're supposed to model our lives after. These men were loaded. We're talking flocks, herds, servants, silver, gold, land, camels, donkeys. Wealth so excessive that kings got nervous. Wealth so visible that entire communities said, "You need to leave. You're too powerful. You're making us uncomfortable." And nobody talks about this. Your religious education gave you Abraham the faithful, Abraham the obedient, Abraham the friend of God. But it skipped over Abraham the millionaire. It glossed over Isaac reaping a 100-fold return during a famine while everyone else starved. It rushed past Jacob going from a walking stick to an empire so large he had to split it into 2 camps just to travel. Why? Why do we teach the faith parts and hide the fortune parts? Why do we lift up their obedience but bury their bank accounts? Why does religion keep handing you half the story? I'll tell you why. Because wealthy believers make religious institutions nervous. Because if you knew that prosperity and faith walked hand in hand for every patriarch in Scripture, you might start asking uncomfortable questions. You might start expecting abundance instead of just enduring scarcity. You might start believing that God actually wants you rich. And that changes everything. Here's what I'm going to show you. 3 men. 3 different starting points. One was a nomad who left his father's house with nothing but a promise. One was a famine survivor who planted when planting made no sense. One was a runaway sleeping on rocks, using a stone for a pillow, not knowing where his next meal would come from. All 3 ended up so wealthy it caused problems. Not blessed with enough, not comfortable, problematically rich. The kind of rich that makes enemies. The kind of rich that gets you exiled from communities because people can't handle watching you prosper. And the secrets they used? They're encoded in the Hebrew text, in words your English Bible translated but didn't fully capture. Details that change everything when you actually see them. 3 men, 3 secrets. 3,000 years of proof that this still works. Let's start with Abraham. We begin when our forefather Abraham had just won a war. His nephew Lot, however, he got captured when 4 kings attacked Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham heard about it, gathered 318 trained men born in his household, chased down these kings, defeated them at night, and brought back everything. The people, the possessions, all of it. This is a military victory. This is spoils of war. By every standard of the ancient world, Abraham just earned himself a massive payday. And then something strange happens. Genesis 14. A mysterious figure shows up. Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of God Most High. He brings bread and wine, he blesses Abraham. And the text says Abraham gave him 1/10 of everything. Stop. There's no law yet. Moses won't be born for another 400 years. The commandments don't exist. Tithing hasn't been codified anywhere. Nobody told Abraham to do this. He just did it. Why? What did Abraham understand that we don't? Here's where the Hebrew gets interesting. The word for 10th, the word we translate as tithe, is ma'aser. And in Hebrew, words aren't random sounds. They're built from roots that carry meaning. The root of ma'aser? It's connected to the concept of becoming wealthy, of accumulating, of growing rich. The word for giving 1/10 literally contains the promise of prosperity inside it. You can't even say tithe in Hebrew without invoking wealth. It's baked into the language. Abraham wasn't losing 10%. He was activating something, unlocking something, tapping into a principle that the language itself encoded. But there's something else most people miss. Look at the sequence. Melchizedek blessed Abraham first. Then Abraham gave. The blessing came before the giving, not after, before. So why give it all? If the blessing already happened, why release 1/10? Because the giving wasn't about starting the blessing. The giving was about sustaining it. Think of it like a river. The water is already flowing. But if you dam it up, if you block the outlet, the flow backs up and stops. Giving keeps the channel open. Giving tells the universe, tells God, that you're not a dead end. You're a conduit. Things can flow to you because things flow through you. Abraham understood this before anyone wrote it down, before any prophet explained it, before any priest codified it. He just knew. And the result? Genesis 24:35. Abraham's servant is describing his master to Laban. The Lord has blessed my master abundantly, and he has become wealthy. He has given him sheep and cattle, silver and gold, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. That word abundantly, in Hebrew it's mi'ad. It means exceedingly, greatly, to the extreme, to the highest possible degree. Abraham didn't end up comfortable. He didn't end up okay. He ended up so wealthy that when his wife Sarah died, he could walk up to the Hittites and buy a burial cave on the spot. Cash, no negotiation, full asking price, because money wasn't a problem. This is the father of your faith. This is the man you're supposed to be imitating. And he was rich, not rich in spirit only, rich in sheep, rich in cattle, rich in silver, rich in gold, rich in servants, rich in camels, rich in donkeys. The Bible lists it out in detail because God wanted you to see it. God wanted you to know that Abraham's faith and Abraham's fortune were not separate categories. They were the same story. So what does this mean for you? Abraham didn't wait for a commandment. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait until he understood the theology behind it. He saw a priest of God, he'd just experienced victory, and he released a tenth on the spot. That's instinct. That's spiritual intelligence. That's a man who understood that holding too tightly closes the channel. What are you holding on to right now that's blocking the flow? What would it look like to give, not because someone made you, not because a law demands it, but because you understand how the system works? Abraham figured it out before anyone explained it to him. Maybe it's time you did the same? Let's look at Isaac. There's a famine in the land of Isaac. A bad one. People are hungry, crops are failing, everyone is in survival mode, hoarding what they have, rationing, trying to outlast the disaster. The smart move is to conserve, protect what's yours, wait it out. Isaac does the opposite. Genesis 26. God tells Isaac not to flee to Egypt like everyone else, stay in the land. And Isaac listens. But then he does something that looks absolutely insane from the outside. He plants. In the middle of a famine, when the ground is hard, when rain isn't coming, when every farmer around him is watching their fields turn to dust, Isaac takes seed that could be eaten, seed that could be saved, seed that could be stored for survival, and he throws it in the dirt. His neighbors must have thought he lost his mind. And then Genesis 26:12 happens. Isaac planted crops in that land and the same year reaped 100-fold because the Lord blessed him. 100-fold, not double. That would be impressive. Not 5 times. That would be miraculous. Not even 10-fold. That would be absurd. 100-fold, 100 times what he planted. During a famine, in the same year, everyone around him is losing everything. Isaac is multiplying everything. Same land, same drought, same conditions, completely different results. How? The text tells you, because the Lord blessed him. But that's not the whole picture. God didn't bless him randomly. God blessed him because he planted. The blessing was a response to the action. Isaac moved first. Heaven responded second. Now here's what your English Bible doesn't show you. The next verses describe Isaac's wealth using the Hebrew word gadal, which means to grow, to become great, to increase. But the text doesn't use it once. It uses it 3 times, and each time it intensifies. First, the man became rich. Second, he continued to grow. Literally in Hebrew, going and becoming great. It's ongoing. It's not a one-time bump. It's momentum. Third, until he became very wealthy. Literally, great until exceedingly. The Bible is showing you compounding, acceleration, wealth that doesn't just arrive, it multiplies on top of itself. Isaac didn't hit a ceiling. He kept rising, and rising, and rising. How rich did he get? Rich enough that the Philistines, the people who lived in that land, got scared. Genesis 26:14 says he had so many flocks and herds and servants that the Philistines envied him. And in verse 16, the king himself shows up and tells Isaac, "Move away from us. You have become too powerful for us." Read that again. A king told him to leave because he was too wealthy. His prosperity became a political problem. His abundance was destabilizing the region. This is what blessing looks like when you understand how to activate it. But here's the part that messes with people. Isaac didn't plant because he saw a harvest coming. He didn't plant because the weather forecast looked good. He didn't plant because conditions were favorable. He planted in a famine. He expanded when everyone else contracted. He sowed when everyone else hoarded. He moved forward when everyone else froze. And that willingness to act against circumstances, to plant when planting makes no sense, to invest when the world is screaming, "Protect yourself." That's what triggered the hundredfold. Most people wait for conditions to improve before they take action. They want to see the rain before they plant the seed. They want proof before they commit. Isaac didn't wait for proof. Isaac became the proof. So let me ask you something. What are you not planting right now because the conditions don't look right? What seed are you holding on to because you're scared the ground won't receive it? What investment of money, of time, of energy, of faith are you postponing until things get better? Isaac's neighbors waited for the famine to end. Isaac planted in the middle of it. Guess who ended up with a hundredfold return? The famine didn't stop Isaac. It revealed him. What is your famine revealing about you? Let's look at a man who had nothing to his name but a vow. Jacob, and he is running for his life. His brother Esau wants to kill him. Not metaphorically, literally. Jacob stole the blessing meant for Esau, manipulated his dying father, and now there's a price on his head. So he runs. No inheritance, no servants, no flocks, no provisions. Just his legs and whatever clothes he's wearing. Genesis 28:11. Night falls. Jacob stops to sleep. And his bed? The ground. His pillow? A rock. That's how broke this man is. He's sleeping on dirt with a stone under his head. He doesn't know if Esau's men are a day behind him. Doesn't know where his next meal is coming from. Doesn't know if he'll survive the week. This is rock bottom. This is zero. And that night, he dreams. A ladder stretching from earth to heaven. Angels going up and coming down. God standing at the top, making promises. Land, descendants, protection, blessing. Jacob wakes up shaken. He takes that rock he slept on, sets it upright, pours oil on it, and makes a vow. Genesis 28:20-22. Listen to what this broke, homeless, hunted man says. "If God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God. And of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth." Wait, a tenth of what? He has nothing. He literally owns a walking stick. That's it. There's nothing to give a tenth of. But Jacob isn't tithing from what he has. He's tithing from what he doesn't have yet. He's making a commitment against future provision. He's pledging a percentage of wealth that doesn't exist. And that word he uses, vow. In Hebrew, it's neder. And this word is everything. Let me show you something about how Hebrew actually works. Because English doesn't function like this. In English, words are just words. Cat means cat. Run means run. There's no hidden architecture underneath. Hebrew is completely different. Almost every word in Hebrew is built from a three-letter root. Think of it like DNA. The root is the genetic code, and different words grow out of it. But they all carry the original DNA inside them. They're all related. They all share a core meaning. So when you understand the root, you unlock every word that grows from it. The word nader comes from the root nun dalet resh. In English letters, NDR. Now watch what this root actually means. It's not just about promising. The root carries the sense of separating, dedicating, taking something out of ordinary use and setting it apart for sacred purpose. There's a related word, nazir, which shares this energy. A nazir was someone who took a special vow of consecration. They separated themselves completely, didn't cut their hair, didn't drink wine, didn't touch dead bodies. They were walking, breathing declarations of dedication, set apart from ordinary life, Same root, same concept. Separation, consecration. Something removed from the common and given to the sacred. So when Jacob makes a nadir, he's not just saying, I promise to give 10% someday. He's performing an act of spiritual separation. He's taking future wealth, money he doesn't have, flocks he's never seen, possessions that don't exist yet, and he's pulling them out of the ordinary world, consecrating them, declaring, this portion doesn't belong to regular life. It's set apart, it's sacred, it's God's before it ever becomes mine. And in Hebrew culture, this wasn't symbolic, it was binding as blood. Numbers chapter 30, verse 2. When a man makes a vow to the Lord, or takes an oath to obligate himself by a pledge, he must not break his word. He must do everything he said, everything. Not try his best, not when it's convenient, everything. Ecclesiastes chapter 5. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it. God would rather you stay silent than speak a nadir you won't keep. That's how serious this is. A nadir isn't a wish. It isn't a hope. It isn't a New Year's resolution you'll abandon by February. A nadir is a verbal covenant that restructures reality. And here's Jacob, broke, hunted, sleeping on rocks, making one. He's consecrating wealth that doesn't exist, setting it apart before it arrives, telling God and himself, I'm not the final destination, I'm a channel. And the channel is open for business before anything has flowed through it. Most people wait until the money shows up to decide what to do with it. Jacob decided what to do with it before there was anything to decide about. 20 years pass. Jacob works for Laban, gets married, has children, builds flocks through a combination of brutal labor and divine strategy. And then Genesis 30:43. In this way, the man grew exceedingly prosperous and came to own large flocks and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. That phrase, exceedingly prosperous, in Hebrew it's paratz meod. Paratz doesn't mean ordinary increase. It means to break forth, to burst out, to spread like something that cannot be contained, like a river flooding its banks, like an explosion of abundance that overwhelms every container you try to put it in. Jacob's wealth didn't grow. It exploded, exponentially. And in Genesis 32:10, Jacob looks back at his own life and says, I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. From a walking stick to two camps. So much wealth, so many people and animals and possessions that he had to split everything in half just to travel. That's the distance between the rock pillow night and the fulfillment. That's what happens when you consecrate something before it exists. That's the power of a nadir. So here's the question. What are you willing to set apart before you see it? What would you consecrate if you actually believed it was coming? Jacob didn't wait for evidence. Jacob's vow became the evidence. Maybe yours could too. 3 men, 3 patriarchs, 3 completely different situations, but the same result. Abraham was a nomad who gave before anyone told him to. Isaac was a farmer who planted when the ground was cursed. Jacob was a runaway who consecrated wealth he didn't have. Different starting points, different challenges, different paths. But look closer. There's a thread running through all 3 stories, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every single one of them acted before they saw the result. Abraham gave a tenth to Melchizedek before tithing was ever commanded. He didn't wait for a law. He didn't wait for a prophet to explain the system. He moved first. Isaac planted during a famine. The ground was hard. The sky was empty. Every logical indicator said, wait. He planted anyway. He moved first. Jacob made a vow while sleeping on rocks. He had nothing, literally nothing, and he committed a tenth of future wealth he couldn't see, couldn't touch, couldn't prove was coming. He moved first. You see the pattern? Faith didn't follow provision. Provision followed faith. They didn't wait for God to prove himself and then respond. They responded and then God proved himself. This is the part that messes people up. We want to see the harvest before we plant. We want to see the money before we commit to giving. We want evidence before we act. The patriarchs flipped it. Action was their evidence. The commitment itself was the proof of faith. And that faith, demonstrated through action, is what opened the floodgates. Now here's what's wild. The Hebrew words in each story actually reinforce this pattern. With Abraham, we saw ma'aser, tithe, built from a root connected to wealth and accumulation. The giving word contains the getting promise. With Isaac, we saw gadal used 3 times in escalating intensity. Wealth that compounds, grows, accelerates, doesn't stop. With Jacob, we saw neder, a vow that consecrates and separates before anything exists. And then paratz, wealth that breaks forth, bursts out, overflows every container. The language itself is encoding the system. These aren't random word choices. The Hebrew is showing you how the mechanism works. Give, and the root of giving contains increase. Plant in hard ground and watch compounding kick in. Consecrate what doesn't exist yet and watch it burst into reality. This isn't ancient history. This isn't a cute story about old men and sheep. This is a blueprint, an operating system, a set of principles that worked 3,000 years ago because they're built into the fabric of how God designed the universe. Gravity worked before Newton named it. Electricity worked before anyone understood it. And these principles? They've been working since Abraham, since Isaac, since Jacob. They're still working now. The question isn't whether the system is real. The patriarchs already proved that. The question is whether you'll use it. You've seen what Abraham did. You've seen what Isaac did. You've seen what Jacob did. 3 men who understood something that most people never figure out. They didn't wait. They didn't hedge. They didn't ask for proof first. They moved, and heaven responded. Now the question lands on you. What are you going to do with this? You can watch this video, nod along, think, that's interesting, and go back to the same patterns that have kept you stuck. Most people will. Most people hear truth and do nothing with it. That's why most people stay exactly where they are. Or you can be different. You can look at your life and ask, where am I waiting when I should be moving? What am I hoarding when I should be planting? What future provision am I refusing to consecrate because I'm scared it won't show up? Abraham gave before he was told to. What would that look like for you? Isaac planted in a famine. What would that look like for you? Jacob made a vow with nothing in his pocket but faith. What would that look like for you? These aren't just stories. These are your ancestors in faith. Their blessing is supposed to be your inheritance. Their secrets are supposed to become your strategies. You're not hearing this by accident. Something brought you here. Something made you click. Something kept you watching. Maybe it's time to find out why.